Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. If this is your first time watching, hey, this is not a podcast. This is a live video where I talk about podcasting. And the topic of conversation today is going to be the line that divides podcasting. I need to take a step back and explain the history, because I've been doing this since October 14th, 2004. And almost since the beginning, there was this line drawn. And the line drawn that you might have heard of, if you've been in this for a while, is the line between indie podcasters and professional podcasters. That is not the line. But nonetheless, that is the line that has been drawn. And the funny thing is, it's been drawn by mostly one group of people. It's been drawn by the indie podcasters. It is not, in my opinion, drawn by or even talked about by the professional side of podcasting. Oh, so much for that thing not making any noises. Now, I think that's the wrong line to look at. And when they look at this line, it is really all about, what's good for us versus them. It's a way to say us versus them. But I try to take a changed perspective view of things. And when I look at a line, if in fact there is one, and there is, that really separates the people, to me it is the line of forward-looking or backwards. Let's not say backwards. Pining for the past, that's also derogatory. Looking backwards or looking forwards. Looking to the past or looking to the future. Maybe that's the way to say it. Looking to the past or looking to the future. Here's what I mean by that. There are many in the past-looking group that lament the fact that very many new professional services are jumping on board, dominating the podcasting scene. It happened right away. It happened right away as soon as the iTunes 4.7 came out in July of 2005 and started listing out a chart that showed the top podcasts. Lo and behold, the top podcasts were mostly repurposed radio, but not always. And it's just continued that way. If you go today and you look at the top 10 in iTunes, which is still the de facto ranking system, all of them are done by professional people. Media companies, professional celebrities, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it is. And they get labeled as pro-casters. Ugh, I hate that terminology because we're looking at things the wrong way. It's past versus future. Here's the reality. Especially in this world we live in today where, there's been some recent announcements in the last few weeks of companies like Panoply and BuzzFeed and Slate Magazine closing down their original content producing. The people who are looking towards the past look at that and say, aha, see? This is definitely a place only for us indies, and what they mean is people who look backwards. It's not sustainable at that level, so any day now, it'll return to where all of us indie podcasters will be listed on the top of iTunes charts. And that's never going to happen. I mean, right? We say that history repeats itself. It doesn't actually. It rhymes. It gets very similar. But if you think there's a day where the professional media production companies are going to pack up their bags and go home, many will, but many new ones will come along, as is already happening. And you think that it's going to be back to the days of two dorks with microphones in the basement, and that's going to be podcasting. We did that, guys. That's looking backwards. So to me, the line that divides is those that look forward. Those who look for something new and interesting and are taking this medium, which doesn't have a lot of rules around it. Make some audio, put it in a format that is consumable and distributable, and do what you want with it. The people who are really looking at the future, to me, you might call them procasters if you want to, but I think that's I think that's fine, but I think you're missing really the point. It is about looking at the future. They're looking at things where things could go, not where things have been. So what does this mean for you, the regular person out there listening to this? I think it's a matter of self-introspection. Where do you see you fitting into podcasting? Where do you think podcasting is going? Are you pining for the days when it was easy for two dorks with microphones in the basement to get the majority of the listenership? Because that's probably not going to happen. Are you also in a mindset to where that which is happening right now is the pinnacle of podcasting, and all I have to do is just keep doing more of this stuff here? Well, that's not very forward thinking. And unfortunately, and this may be offensive to some out there, but the companies that are really responsible for, or have been historically responsible for driving podcasting, who are big supporters of podcasting, I mean, two really big hosting companies. As much as I love the people that work in these companies, and I'm friends with these people, they're in the past thinking. They have in my opinion, they have a difficult time of seeing what the future might look like. And a lot of that is, and I get why. I mean, this is part of my challenge, being the contrarian voice inside of businesses for the 2 decades I've been doing it. It's easy to be comfortable. We've got 25,000 people, whatever the number is, paying their bills, paying their invoices every month, which pays for our bills. And we're going to just keep innovating on the things that we do and not do something radically, drastically different. I get it. I really do. It's hard to make those kinds of jumps, especially when you've got an active user base that is happy with the way things are with the status quo, and also not necessarily looking at doing new and different things. But I think that's problematic. You could call it conservative versus progressive if you wanted. That's got political connotation, so I try not to do that. But really, where do you see the medium going? If you are someone like me who always tries to look forward, I don't like looking backwards. It's just, I don't mind looking backwards to self-examine, to see what happened, to look for patterns that might repeat or rhyme at some point in time in the future. But it is not where I want to be. I want to think about what's next, because right now, out there, while you're watching me talk about this, wondering why isn't the past something that to be celebrated, and a lot of my old podcasters like me celebrate the past a lot. While you're doing that, because I'm not doing that, there's a whole crop of people that are looking at the podcasting space now and saying, what can I do different? How can I take this medium and create something that is truly special? There have been people like this all the time, but I think they're really empowered now. I think there are new companies that are coming in that are really, really breaking the space. You know, when I gave my talk back in 2014, I was one of the keynote speakers at Podcast Movement. And I told him podcasting is not a movement and it's not disruptive. Well, in 2014, it wasn't. There was a new wave of media that's coming around, but it wasn't necessarily disruptive. Since that time, there have been a lot of disruptive moves. And I think there are a lot of new players entering this space, not just from the technology providing side, but also from the content creating side that are changing the space. Yes, some old school publishers and also some new publishers that kind of glam on the new things and are known for bouncing in and out quickly. Yeah, they've changed. They're not doing the things that they're doing. But don't take that as everybody. And most importantly, don't take that as an assumption that things will return to the past, because they never ever do. It's future that only happens. We never ever go back. Sorry. We just don't. Anyhow, that's how I see the dividing line, and I think it has definite implications for every podcaster, every podcast service provider, and certainly every business thinking about getting into the podcasting game. You want to talk about the future and how you can make a show to get you in with that forward-looking group of us. Hey, contact me, evo@podcastlaunch.pro. I launch podcasts, podcastlaunch.pro, more about me. And I'll be back tomorrow with yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers!